Listeners be advised. The Soliloquy podcast discuss matters related to the human experience and many that are sexual in nature. Due to this, some conversations may surround triggering topics such as sexual violence, self-harm, abuse, and much more. Please be advised, a list of crisis and psychological resources will be available in the show notes of this episode. With that said, let's get started with the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention please as we go through the following safety instructions.
In the event that there is a loss of cabin pressure, oxygen mask will drop from the overhead. Place the mask over your nose and mouth. Breathe normally as oxygen is flowing even if the mask is not inflated. Be sure to adjust your own mask before helping others.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Soliloquy podcast, where we step out and speak on sexuality. This is your favorite host, Vernon T. Scott, also known as Slaytor Jackson, and for you freaky motherfuckers out there, Sebastian Adams. On today's episode, we are talking about some depressing ass shit. It's always depressing, talking about rape and rape culture and everything. Ugh. I'm sorry, y'all. This is just the topic of today. But let's not get depressed too early. I know that I already did that, and I apologize. Hopefully,
we're gonna make this fun today, as fun as we can.
As fun as we can. And as you can hear, Demi's back. Hey. So, if you do not remember, Demi is the host of the Hookup Horror Story podcast. I'm all off.
You got it.
Just did this. Demi, what are the other things that you're doing, like your blog, your the works that you have? Just let everybody know the great things about you while I get myself together over here.
Sure. I'm a sex writer and educator, so I'm also a content creator. I have two blogs, The Deviant Diaries, which is my personal memoirs about my sexual history and all the fun shenanigans I've ever gotten into. Plus, I have a Deviant's Guide to Sex, which is my kind of how-to guide of like sex and dating and all kinds of things in between. And then I also, I'm an author. I have two. I didn't mention this on the last one, but I have two books of poetry that I've self-published. What are they called? Bitter Blue Pill and All Was Nothing in the Time of Champions. Both are available on Amazon. And yeah, I'm just a content creator. I make a lot of, I just talk about sex all the time. It's kind of all I do these days.
How dare you talk about sex? That's so disgusting. Oh my God. Like, I would never be caught talking about that kind of stuff.
Me neither. I'm a log cabin Republican.
I should not have laughed. I should not have laughed. I respect your political. Oh, the lies, Lord, the lies. Oh, and I don't think I even mentioned this last episode, but everyone, if you don't know this by now, all the great and juicy information will be in the show notes, like how to follow him, how to support him, how to engage with his work. So just look in the show notes, it will be there for you. In the other episode, I probably should have mentioned that I'm going to add the Polaris Project and also the Leo Grind movie in the show notes for people. But it is what it is. If you don't know about the last episode, go listen to it.
Write it down.
Yes.
Save it for later. Yeah.
Save it for later. So let's get into the topic of rape culture. One of the things that we were talking about in the intake meeting was just the importance of advocacy. So why is advocacy important to you, and why should people continuously make that fight to have a better tomorrow, in a sense?
Well, so this has just been one of those topics that has always been really important to me. I grew up in a domestic violence household. There wasn't really rape involved, but there was violence. I myself was a victim at one point. I managed to get out of it, luckily. So it's just been one of those things to me that is really important. And especially when it comes to taking care of victims and speaking with people and educating others on the subject. So it's really just kind of like one of those things that it's really a passion of mine.
Mm. You know, a part of like one of the things that I've said this to a few people. I don't talk about it often enough, but I truly do believe that sex education, or even just talking about sex in a healthy way, and just having these conversations, is always a political thing. Because the more that you talk about it, the more that you educate people about it. Most definitely, if you're just talking about consent, you're always going to be engaging in some kind of political talk,
Right.
because when you're talking about the importance of autonomy and what that means for like your day-to-day life, having choice in what you do, what you say, and how you have your lived experience on this planet while you're here, it will always contradict something that we've always been taught, that, oh, you have to work this job, you have to follow this one trend, you have to do this one thing, or you have to allow people to have their rights restricted because you're good, you're privileged, it's fine for you to do that.
Mhm.
These other people are outside of the norm, so we need to push them out. So
Mhm.
talking about sex and engaging in these conversations in a way is always going to be linked to some type of advocacy, because it is taboo, because it is something that we shy away from. Even when it comes to educating people about sexuality, once you know more about how you can express yourself, once you can understand that other people have sex different from you, and that is perfectly fine, that releases a hold that many societal messages have had on you, or have had in
Mhm.
those circles that you were in. And now you're talking to your friends about, hey, 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 it's okay for that person to do that. It's okay for them to be gay. Like, why do you feel some type of way about that? Let's talk about this, friend. You
Mhm.
know? So, yeah.
It's interesting because so here's my kind of philosophy on the subject.
Mhm,
So evil thrives in darkness.
mhm,
So a lot of people that make this a political thing, and I wouldn't say people like us make it a political thing because it's just kind of a normal thing for us to talk about, to have these discussions and to educate others on. But there's people in the world who believe that conservative values are key and conservative key and but here's the thing is when you try to control people and you try to keep information from people, that keeps them in the dark about the true terrors of the world.
mhm,
And that's where this stuff kind of lies. I'm not saying all conservative people are this, but they help facilitate. There's people, definitely liberal people who are definitely like, victims and perpetrators. But it's one of those things where you keep people from the information that they desperately need in order to navigate these difficult situations. That's how these things get out of hand. That's how
mhm,
they thrive. That's how they permeate into other places in the world. It's one of those things where you just keep people from the information that they desperately need. That's why it's so important to educate others.
mhm. Yeah. I think that's the thing I love about being in education. Is like the thing that I used to hate the most is whenever a student would come to me and say, "Oh, I would never use this in the real world," or "Why do I have to take all of these certain classes that don't mean anything in terms of my major?" And I'm like, you will never know exactly how that material that you're learning can benefit you, regardless of what your major is. And that was
Mhm.
something that I learned early on in my when I was earning my undergrad degree. It was that, okay, I'm in this history class and I really do love psychology. Um, it was actually English history class, so it was completely irrelevant in a way, but I was able to tie in the things that were going on in within the psychology realm with the English history, which got me into wanting to explore narratives a little bit more, and
Right.
figure out how those impact our psychology, how those impact our upbringing and everything like that. And lo and behold, that brought me to where I'm at today in learning more about scripting theory, because that is something, learning more about narrative therapy, because I made the decision to combine two completely different subjects into one thing to see how that can manifest into something beautiful or something new or something that relates to what I have goals for. And I think that's something that a lot of people tend to miss out on, because of the information that we're that's kept from us. Just imagine the inventive things people can do in terms of their own personal sex lives if they just knew about more things on the spectrum. Like one
Mhm.
of the things I really want to do is learn, well, see how, the rose, the clitoral vibrator, that little
Oh yeah, yeah.
thing. I really want to see how that can be used for nipple play. Like I'm literally purchasing one just so I can explore nipple
Oh,
play with
I'm
it.
sure great.
Right?
I'm
Like,
sure great. I have no feeling in my nipples because I've had them pierced multiple times. So
ooh.
it's not it ain't gonna help me any. But for those that it would, absolutely, yeah.
Right. So those kind of things, like whenever you're aware of all the diverse things out here, there's so much beauty. Like, in even within conservative viewpoints, like there you can find beauty in there, but the way that the narrative is now is a whole lot of shit in that pool. So once you sift through the shit, you might find a diamond. Okay.
And we could talk
Maybe.
about how the Bible is one of the most pornographic books
Oh my
ever
God.
created.
Oh my.
Bestiality, incest, matricide, infanticide, you name it. It's disgusting. So,
Yeah, I learned that from a friend actually. She was like, there was, I forget, was it it's a book of somebody. I think it was Samuel or Psalms. No, Solomon, the book of Solomon. She was like, yeah, all of this is sex. And I was like, bitch,
mhm.
what?
It's all sex. And that's why they're so hung up on it, is because that's ingrained in their mind themselves, because that's all the information that they really keep is in that damn book, because they don't have space for anything else. That's literally all they have. So again, that's the danger of this, is like when you have such a limited worldview, you don't know how to navigate uncharted territory.
Mm. It's like being afraid of tomorrow.
Exactly. You're literally being afraid of the world, and it's like, we're here. God made us all. You can't
Mm.
say that God created one thing and say no, 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 you're a mistake. Like, no, that doesn't fucking make sense.
That's so boring too.
Not
Like,
in the God I know, anyways.
whenever I think, have you read the book The Giver?
I've read The Giving Tree.
That's a good one.
Shelter Machine.
That is a good book.
Oh, the old man.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. A long time ago, like third, fourth grade.
The thing that, like, I enjoyed the book, but that society seemed so very boring to me.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, they had different activities that they can participate in, but once you have one role and you're in that role throughout the rest of your life, and it's
Yeah.
only a select things that you can choose from. However, the little kid who, were to receive all the messages, his role sounded actually pretty fun
Mhm.
without the pain, because I'm sorry, if I have not experienced pain ever in my life and you just introduced me to a broken ankle, bitch, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Mhm.
I understand they have to do it, but anyways, that's what I think of whenever I hear of people wanting to push that everyone needs to be the same. It's just monotonous, and monotony is boring.
That's fascism, baby.
Exactly.
This is the land of the free. We're supposed to like really celebrate our individuality. We're supposed to celebrate all the different things that we are, because we are the most culturally vibrant melting pot of people. But people still, and they're just so radical these days. I can't deal with it.
Yeah. And whew, and that's radical on all sides, and it's just annoying.
I agree. I completely agree with you. I
It's just like,
completely
can we
agree.
have a
It's
conversation?
radical everywhere. We need to fucking reel it in, bring it to the
Like,
middle, and chill the fuck out.
but for real, like I've experienced people who are just like, "How dare you do?" I'm like, "Oh, child, why are you upset? Why?"
But you can't have actual discussions with people on either side. That, number one, because social media is so limited in how we actually communicate with each other,
Mm,
but also like people just blow things out of proportion because they're complete strangers on the internet. People say that those heinous things to strangers on the internet. It's like, why?
God, I remember I had an argument with somebody, and I told him that I was an educator, and he was like, "I would hate for my students to ever have you as an educator." And I was like, "Well, you will probably benefit if they were one of my students because all my
Right.
students graduate. So, and also
Ah,
most most of my students were college students, and again, all of them graduated. So,
yeah.
again,
That's a good comeback.
so
You can go homeschool little Rusty and fucking see how he turns out.
right, but. Anyways, back to the conversation. I love
Right.
tangents. I love tangents for this reason. Now, so part of our conversation earlier on was how porn is fantasy and it is not real sex.
Mhm.
And some people have issues with breaking that down. Um, so I think about whenever, because we were talking about real sex at the
Yeah.
time, and because I love that show, and I need HBO to just put that on HBO Max. Like people are paying for HBO Max, put the shit on there, okay? HBO, I need to write them again. Put that on, put it on there.
Yeah, why is it not?
Right, right. Like you have all the dicks on there. Like I don't care about Game of Thrones. I'm tired of seeing dicks on dicks on dicks on Game of Thrones. Can I watch real sex?
Right.
Please. So but anyways, when it comes to because I know part of that was whenever I because I was reflecting on whenever I do watch porn, I do get uncomfortable watching some of those things because of the way porn is shot. It's
Right.
you can have those scenes that are very forceful, and one of the things that I'm doing research on is just how rape culture is kind of normalized in porn. The Holiloquy podcast focuses on the variability of sexual expression. When it comes to sexual expression, we often depend on pornography to illustrate how one must perform sexually. For those who have not learned this by now, the stuff you see in porn is not real. Pornography provides a singular perspective of sexual expression that is not often the reality we see during our own sexual encounters. The Holiloquy podcast is a conversation that takes you outside of the compressed box of what many know about sex. Some of the topics we discuss includes kinks, condom usage, status disclosure, and past sexual experiences. The Holiloquy podcast steps out on sexual norms and recognizes that the norm is not the only normal. Subscribe today and join the conversation. You can have those scenes that are very forceful. And one of the things that I'm doing research on is just how rape culture is kind of normalized in porn when it
Mhm.
comes to when a dude is fucking some woman and she's like, oh no, stop, 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 and it's in a sexual way, and to make it seem as though when you hear stop, it's sexy, so you can keep
Right.
going. Or when you hear no, or oh my God, and all this other stuff, you can keep going because they're enjoying it rather than just stopping when the person says ouch or stop.
Yeah.
So people are being taught in a way that this is what you're supposed to do during sex, but don't recognize that this is only for a scene. This is only for show, rather than this is how you should be experiencing your partner's body during an actual sexual encounter.
Right. Well, like kids these days, like, we're all millennials. We came of age during the time of when the internet was just beginning, so porn was kind of everywhere. I remember downloading JPEGs of fucking Jessica Alba, like that took like 45 minutes to download because I was a little bit bi curious back then.
Mm. Yes,
But
Jessica.
she's gorgeous. But like the kids these days get all their information from porn. They get all their sex ed from porn because all they really teach us in school is how to put a condom on, but that's
Mm.
not it. There's so much more in there just in interpersonal stuff and all that stuff. But what porn actually is it's exaggerated. It's just acting. A high percentage of pornography is actually considered rape themed, but of this 95% is directed directly at women and girls. So kids absorb all this information, and guys in particular absorb this information and think that that's how you have sex with a girl. And
Mm.
that's not the case. You have to kind of like teach kids earlier on that they have to understand the difference.
Hmm. So, to the parents out there, my question to you is, are you able to have that conversation with your kids? If not, are you willing to find the resources to allow you to have that conversation with your kids? Or
Right.
are you willing to allow the school system to have the conversation with your kids with comprehensive sex education?
And that's the thing. A lot of these new laws and stuff actually limit what's actually taught in schools. So even what limited information that we get taught in schools is even becoming even more limited. So
Yes.
with these new bills and stuff, these kind of like anti-LGBT stuff that's happening, it's getting crazy. Like we can't actually have these conversations anymore with people. Like you have to kind of fight, man. It sucks.
Mhm. The craziest thing about that is that it's very much legal, like with the Florida law, like the Don't Say Gay bill, is very legal on a federal level for them to remove everything dealing with LGBTQ issues because of the federal law as it relates to sex education, because it
Right.
only permits abstinence only sex education and including safer sex options within that. And the sex
You
ed
get
that,
nothing with that. You get
yeah.
nothing with that. I am living proof. I had a promise ring when I was 16 years old. Did that fucking 15 years old, sorry. 14. 14.
Yeah.
I had a promise ring. That shit did not work, clearly. Like I had sex one time. I was sucking dicks in a baseball field. Like it was like it but but again, I put myself in these situations because I didn't know any better, you
Mhm.
know?
And that's why I am very fearful of our youth. And I'm fortunate enough that my younger cousins are comfortable enough to ask me these questions, even though I tell them, hey, talk to your mom or your dad first. And if they're not willing to answer, because I know like my aunt, she doesn't care, and to their dad, fuck him. It's not really fuck him. He's a cool dude, but still fuck him. But at least
Yeah, fuck dads, man.
right.
Fuck all
I
dads,
have a
every single
history of
one.
that. But like
Just
when it
kidding.
comes to right,
Not
when
all
it
dads.
some are very amazing. I have an amazing dad. I love that man. When it comes to like any questions that he may have, willing to answer some of those questions and point him in the direction of finding the actual answers himself too, because I don't want my younger relatives, to be as blind as I was when I was exploring who I am, what
Right.
sexuality is, and all of that. And even on top of that, just the amount of adults that I've met who just don't even know the bare minimums of who they are as a sexual being.
Mm-hmm.
Like they cannot articulate what they want during sex or what they need during sex. They don't have a concept of understanding, respecting other people's boundaries as well. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't have it in me to constantly teach adults what their sex is supposed to look like, or how they can approach other people on a sexual level, because that's time consuming.
Yeah.
Like, just get the information.
We got a life
uh,
too. We got all day.
right. Like when I tell you,
Answer questions for 24 hours a day. Goddamn.
I've started to send people to my podcast. Literally, I'm like, oh, well, you don't know this. Here's an
Listen
episode.
to
Just
this.
listen
Yeah.
to that. Like, because I'm not going to be your teacher. Most
Yeah.
definitely, if you're not going to pay me for this, so we're not doing that.
Exactly. All we're doing is just trying to give people the ammunition that they need to make better informed decisions with their own sex lives.
Yes, that part. Um, this going back to comprehensive sex ed, and also some of the media that we consumed as children. As I mentioned, I was like huge on real sex when I was young, and that helped me learn a good bit of how diverse sexuality can be.
Mhm.
I remember episodes where there was a straight man who loved wearing women's clothing to engage with his partner. At first, his partner, she was uncomfortable with it, but after they had the conversations, and I think I don't know if they went to a therapist or not, but they had the conversations about it, and she grew more comfortable with it and recognized that this is just a part of who he is, and loved that.
Yeah.
Seeing how even Black couples on that show were very open about how they like to have sex with each other. It was where I learned more about the history of like the Greeks. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Oh,
Sounds
the Greeks are freaks, man. They're
as hell. Like I was like,
nasty.
whoa, y'all doing too much.
Nasty. Even Romans too. Damn, they were nasty.
Nasty hoes, but we love it for y'all. Like just even learning like even the stuff that like in media that you will see about Spartans, and I'm like, oh, to know that some of these men were having sex with each other.
They
Okay.
were all fucking. They were all fucking because it was culturally okay to have a wife and also to fuck dudes on the side. It was completely okay. And a lot of like the philosophers of the day had like, younger male cohorts that they, clearly, number one, they learned from them, yes, but they also definitely had sex with them too. So it's,
Right.
but again, this is a completely different culture, completely different world that they grew up in and that they lived in than the one that we live in now.
Exactly. What were some of the media that you consumed when you were a child related to sex?
So I was a Loveline fan. I listened to Loveline every single night. Dr. Drew, Adam Carolla. I was like a big radio person. I would hide in my closet at my grandparents' house and like call in sometimes when had to ask a question about whatever, like wet dreams or whatever. Like, so like I was like always like I love this because it was naughty first of all, and it was funny, but it was also like really important information.
Hmm.
And I also remember Dr. Sue Johansson. I don't know if you like remember this girl at all. She was the older woman, probably like in her 80s, but she was a sex educator and she was on TV.
Mm,
I just vividly remember her like teaching how to put on condoms, like on a dildo, like on television.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She was all over the place. God bless her. She
Yes.
was she was great. But
I
also
forgot all about her.
I remember also a lot of the times, and I've written a story about this about Skinamax. Did you ever have Skinamax in your
Yes.
house?
We did not have it, but I heard of it.
Yeah, my grandparents had a black box, like what they had bootleg cable, and they thanks to my dad. And so like at 10 o'clock every night, there was like one particular channel that would just like immediately flip and then turn into like porn. And we were watching TV one night and watching like My Dog Skip. My cousin reminded me, and we were watching My Dog Skip, and all of a sudden the grandfather clock went off. It was 10 o'clock, and the TV channel changed, and it was just some dude and some lady fucking like.
Oh,
So
wow.
grandma and grandpa were like freaking out, had to change the channel real fast. They said, "All right, bedtime, gotta go." So
That's
I was kind
hilarious.
of taught because of this. Like I had a very kind of complicated, like sex was all. But then my grandpa also had Playboys like in his bathroom. So like I was on one side it was like a very private thing that you did, and then at the same time it was also a very shameful thing. But then also behind the scenes is like where people like were talking about it.
Mm,
I had all this weird information from everywhere. But sex in the media in particular is like it's all over the place. First of all, like it's very accessible. You have billboards that have tits and ass all over it,
mm,
and then you have like love stories. You have very romantic stuff, or you have very violent things in movies. So it's kind of hard to gauge what sex really is. It's hard to navigate whatever these topics are because we have such a very complicated relationship with it. But
mhm.
talking about this stuff and talk about how we learned about it really opens up the conversations to like bigger things.
Yeah. Another show I really hope that they bring back is Undressed. That was something that I watched. I think this was going towards my preteen era, and it used to come on MTV, and I, it was kind of like the American version of Degrassi,
Okay.
but a lot more sexual and it's not really about teenagers. It's more
I had
focused
such a
on
crush
like
on Marco.
Marco was kind of cute. I'm not even gonna
He was a
lie.
cutie. He was a cutie.
Marco was Bay. Mine was Jimmy for a little bit of time, and then I let that one go when Marco came on the scene, and then like Marco and Paige's brother started dating. I was like, oh, this is so cute. Let's keep that going.
Mhm.
Um, okay, now I'm going deep into the grassy, but that was another good show that actually
Yeah.
taught about sexual health. That's where I learned about STIs that my school didn't cover, about how easily it can be transmitted and how, oh yeah, you can have an outbreak at school and things like that.
There is a really great show, and I'm sure your listeners are probably familiar already because it's such a fantastic show. It's like it's called Sex Education. It's on Netflix. It's such a good show.
Oh, so
Like
good.
Gillian Anderson is so good in it, and it normalizes being openly queer and gay, and just has like really deep, meaningful gay sex conversations. I remember the one part where they're teaching how to douche, like that one thing. But it's such a well-written show. It opens up so many great conversations, and I'm so glad that kids these days have a show like that that they can actually
Mhm,
watch in order to get information somewhat under the table. It's not like
mhm.
overtly in your face, but it's like it's there, it's sex education. So it's
Yes,
very well written show, and I'm very happy that kids these days have something like that.
I agree. By any chance, do you miss when television had that switch where it just immediately went towards like porn or something like that?
No.
What? I
They
do.
made very uncomfortable situations with my grandparents.
Okay, that's a valid point there. It's a very
My
valid point.
grandma spilled her martini all over me. It's time for bed.
Time for
Gotta go.
bed. Like I think it's just the nostalgia of real sex that makes me miss it so much. Um, in a way, knowing that you're getting away with something that your parents don't know is going on, like you're watching stuff on HBO. I also miss the BET after. I just miss a lot of After Dark
Oh
series.
yeah.
We need to bring that back in a different capacity. Like, can we just have like a streaming service that's all like after dark?
Yeah.
It would be so much fun. And make sure it's a child protection lock on it so that the parents don't have to worry about it. But then again, these kids are smart as hell. So if you have
Kids,
kids,
here's
don't.
the thing about kids. Kids want to know shit.
Mm,
Kids want to know because they're very curious. They want to know what's going on in the world. And
mhm.
when we limit them, we're doing them a disservice.
We are, because you find the answers in the worst places sometimes.
I got lucky with my family. Like, yes, I got kind of like a weird conservative thing on one side, but my mom my mom in particular, my mom's side of the family was always pretty open with me. So I was able to have conversations. To this day, we were having a conversation the other day about like her and her new boyfriend,
Oh,
which I will say, I think I reached a threshold at that point. I'm like,
oh,
oh, okay, I'm done now.
it's time for me to go. I'm just going to pack up everything. Is this my water? That looks like my water. I'm just going to grab this. Thank you so much. Is that my kids? There we go. Talk to you soon. Bye.
But it's because of this, like that I'm able to have these conversations with my mom.
Mhm.
I'm very thankful for.
That's good. Well, I'm happy for y'all.
Yeah.
So another thing that we were talking about was ongoing consent. It was referenced in the our last episode together too. So w- when it comes to consent and just ongoing consent in general, that's just for those who need some little bit of context there. Is just
Mhm.
having those conversations with your partner or even yourself sometimes of
Mhm.
what you're comfortable with, and yes, this is fine, this is not fine. So how impactful is ongoing consent for you?
It's the most thing. So I will say it's not the easiest thing to put into practice, but I think that once you kind of like have an understanding of who a person is and how your kind of relationship is, it's kind of easier to navigate.
Hmm.
But consent isn't a one-time deal. Like, yes, you have to have those conversations prior. Like, what are you into? I hate that question, by the way. It's very vague, and
Very
people don't
big.
really don't really know what the answer. So it's like, what are your kinks? What are your interests? That those are better questions to ask. So yeah, you have to do like that pre-work, I think, with consent to kind of like understand where a person's at, what their things are, and also while you're actually engaging in it as well, making sure that it's ongoing. So asking just a simple phrase, is this okay?
Mm.
Perfect. It doesn't have to be that complicated. It's just, it's those moments that I've been having sex with people and they ask me that. I'm like, oh, it made it so much better, because it made me feel like I'm being taken care of.
Right. Oh my gosh. I remember having sex with somebody and they were just like, "Is everything great?" And I was just like, "Yes,
It's like,
yes."
because gay
You care.
people, we are so broken that
Right.
just the mere suggestion that someone cares about us is like, oh,
Where were you all this time?
oh yeah, everything's great. Go deeper, It's like,
Like, do you want
come
to choke me
on,
too?
come on.
Like, I actually had a
Slap my ass
workshop.
while you're at it. It's like it just makes it so much better.
It does. I had a workshop, and with it, I was telling people about how you can check in with your partner on like while having sex and still keep it sexy because
Mhm.
it is a sexy moment. It makes you even more comfortable to engage deeper with this person. You're not on guard. You're not thinking about, okay, what if they go too far? Or what if I have to stop things? Or maybe if you are still comfortable with the person, you're just like, okay, let me try to get out of my head as much as possible. But when you do have somebody that does check in with you, you like I find myself getting more and more out of my head. I find myself being more in the moment. And whenever they do check in, I'm grounded for a second so I can respond. And then I'll go back out and I enjoy everything that's happening to me. And I enjoy everything that I'm experiencing with this person because of the comfort that we have.
Exactly.
And it's just, that's a rare find, and that's the issue. Like even
Yeah.
like when you said the having that question about what are you into, how that is so vague, it really stood out to me because I also hate that question. I always have to ask somebody, are you speaking generally what I'm into, or are you talking about sexually? And then when it comes to sexually, I have my typical response. I'm into a lot of things, but give them the general sexual interest and then also let them know I'm also open to exploring more based off of how our chemistry is and how comfortable I am with the person. Because if I don't have that comfort level with you and I don't have that feeling of wanting to engage more, it's not going to come to you. Because I need to make sure that the space that I'm walking into or the person who's coming over to me has a similar mentality of knowing that there's going to be mutual respect and understanding that mutual pleasure is a requirement when engaging with me. If
Right.
that's something that you don't have, then I don't want to meet up. I don't want
Right.
to engage in sex with you because what am I getting out of this? And I
Exactly.
often don't think of sex in a transactional way, but when it comes to pleasure, oh my, no, I need that to be mutual.
Yeah, completely. It's just really interesting how people like it's like, why do you need another body to masturbate with?
Mm,
Think about that. Because like when you are you're masturbating with another human, like when you approach it the way that you were talking about just now, it's like you're not really there with the other person, you're there for yourself.
mhm.
You might as well just be at home with your hand. Like,
Exactly.
what's the point?
Exactly. Like just jack off and be great and be happy. Like
Put that on a
I
shirt. Jack off and be great.
right? Episode title. There we go. And I'm going to put that on the shirt. But like for real, like what's the purpose? If I'm not going to be just some like I know there's some people who enjoy being objectified. I'm not that person. Find them.
Right.
I'm not just a whole. I'm not just something that you fuck. I'm something that you experience. So if you're
Right.
not coming over here to experience me, then why are you trying to come over?
I'm a whole ass vibe, man. You can't.
Listen,
You can't.
you cannot.
You
Like,
could never.
like I tell one person, I'm in the business of changing lives. If you're not trying to have your life change, you don't want to be over here with me. Just continue on your way. So, the last topic of the show. We were talking about rape culture and just how it is connected in the law, and many people don't really know how embedded rape culture is, most definitely when it comes to the practice of law. Some don't even know that victim blaming itself is the essence of how we most lawyers practice criminal law.
Mhm.
How you have to shame the victim or whatever the case is. That is just it goes so far back. It goes so
Does,
far
yeah.
back. What connections have you noticed throughout the years, or just in general?
I feel like the two main connections that I see is that rape culture is kind of rooted in, I mean, definitely rooted in misogyny, first of all.
Mm,
It's like definitely just male centric, all that stuff. But then also, just with our legal system in general, we're innocent until proven guilty, which means a victim of sexual assault is a liar until they're proven innocent, until they're proven correct.
mm,
And that in itself is kind of bullshit. Like we treat think about Law and Order SVU. They have completely different methods when they're dealing with them in the criminal cases. In the law, however, it's a lot more kind of black and white. And so we kind of have to change that conversation, I think, a little bit, especially when I could think of the example Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. Again, a very toxic relationship on both parties, but think about how they were treated differently in the public eye. Johnny Depp, everyone loved him, everyone rooted for him because he's charismatic. But then Amber Heard, she was vilified. She was literally
mm,
like they thought she was a monster. She was emotionless. She was too emotional. She was, this or that. And it's that in and of itself is kind of how a lot of it's practiced in the law, anyways, because they're considered unwinnable cases.
mm,
So a lot of like lawyers won't even take them on because they have to think about their money, they have to think about legacy, they can't really make money off of it in general. It's just a really complex, difficult thing to get through. But we have to kind of approach it differently. We have to kind of like treat it a little bit differently than we would a regular case, I think, in
mm.
the eye of the law, I think.
Yeah, I would love for us to get to that point where we can have like look at things in context. Like the facts definitely matter, and then also the things that surrounding it is also important too. And I think that's where also need to extend that to a lot of the other things that people are like murder or um, even crimes of poverty in general. Look
Mm-hmm.
at things in a holistic way. Because I remember there was this case where this man was on death row, and I think he was executed. But he murdered a police officer, and the reason he murdered the police officer is because the police officer killed his little brother and I think his mother too in front of him. Like he was living across the street, but he saw all of that happen. And this he was a young I think he was 17 or something like that. He witnessed a police officer murder his family, and he responded and murdered that police officer. And rather than looking at things in the context of what was going on for a 17-year-old and what he witnessed at the time, it was just a black and white response. Oh, you killed a police officer, you're going straight to death row. No redemption, no looking at his changed behavior, seeing that he's improved, gotten a lot more mentally sound and everything, healed from that trauma. None of that came back up. It's just you murdered this police officer, death row, and you're going to die.
Yeah.
Like the circumstances that led up to that matters. The context of this person's backstory matters. And until we're able to incorporate that into the legal practices, I don't think there will be true justice for any persons.
I would agree with that too, and I think a lot. Another thing came up as you were saying that. I think a lot of the times monetarily lawyers go into the business of lawyering
Mm.
the law because they want to make money. So
Yes.
capitalism is another thing that kind of feeds into this as well, because like no one wants to take on these sexual assault cases because they're unwinnable. You can't make money off of them,
Mm.
you know. So it's like, what are we doing then? It's, I think another part of it is capitalism.
Yeah, and that reminds me of like those cases with like Harvey Weinstein,
Yeah, privilege, money. Yeah,
what's his name? Bill Cosby.
insulation.
That's like people were going all in about their victims, talking about, oh, you're only in this for the money. And I don't think there was even a monetary thing involved in any of their cases. It was more so holding them accountable for their actions. So I'm like,
In Epstein,
where are
there
they
was
gonna?
there was a victims fund in Epstein's situation.
Oh, yes, that is true.
Yeah,
I
but
don't,
again, it's a very layered thing. It's not always a one and the same thing.
that is true. Like, and that's the thing that I need people to like take a step up, back from. And even if there is some type of monetary benefit of this person going to jail,
That shouldn't mean that the
that should
victim is a liar.
exactly like, can we just address these things? Because even with the R. Kelly situation, before the like I remember the situation with Leah because I was young enough to remember, and I didn't really put anything in context because me being a child, everybody that's like older than me is an adult, so I don't know how old she was. So but I was old enough to remember the situation with him peeing on this young girl, and I saw the video and I'm like, that's a child, like she looks like my age, like what, this
You
doesn't.
saw the video?
I
Wow.
did. Look, LimeWire had it on there, and
Oh,
I
shit.
downloaded it.
I still have never even seen the Pam and Tommy thing, but after I saw the documentary, I'm like, I don't ever want to,
Mm,
because that was a private moment between them. But
true.
again, the R. Kelly thing, that's not.
Yeah. So
They
it
were
was
that was a married couple. R. Kelly is a predator. So
right, right. So it was like it was very, very that like the justice system failed so many people
yeah.
because of a name or because of their ability to make money and all this other stuff, and or just because they are very loved. And we're at a point now, and I hope the shift continues towards holding people with wealth accountable, but I don't know how far that's going to go. I really don't. But I would love to see a lot more of that. I would love for people to step back from, oh, this is my favorite person, they can't do any wrong, and acknowledge that, hey, this is my favorite person. I hope if they did do something wrong that they're held accountable. So let's see how everything goes out in court before I make my statements about, oh, they're innocent or they did not do this. And this reminds me of the situation with Meg the Stallion, where it was clear since when she was shot that this stuff happened, but you have all this misinformation saying, oh,
It
she
was
wasn't shot,
so
this is only for money,
crazy.
this blah blah blah. I'm like, she makes more money than this man.
There was there was people who saw the thing.
Exactly.
And then the one who flipped on her,
Hmm.
that was money, I'm sure, from Tori.
Right. So I'm like, rather than looking at the facts that are right there in front of you, we are going to demonize one, women, and we're all, especially Black women, and or we're
Mhm.
just going to follow this person because we're a part of their fandom. No, let's not do that.
No, yeah.
Whew, okay. Wow.
But I will leave it on this last statement here, and I'm probably
Hmm.
going to butcher it, but
Do
the
you?
arc of time bends towards justice.
Oh, you didn't butcher that. That's you did that right.
It's a long road, but it arcs towards justice.
Yeah, it's a very long road. I needed to like shake up a little bit, speed up, but I feel like if it speeds up, we'll be in the sun right now, so I'm good. So you ready for some never have I ever?
Let's do it.
So never have I ever had sex on a boat.
I have not. I was trying to think. Have I? My grandparents had a boat, but I never had sex on it. So I'm like, have I been on a boat since my grandparents? No, I have not. So I have not had sex on a boat.
I have not either. I need to. I don't want it to be like a cruise ship because I don't count that as a boat. I want it to be. mm, like a fishing boat. I don't mind being out in the middle of the lake and
Fishing boat.
just like what are you guys doing out there? Mind your
What about
fucking
a
business.
houseboat?
We're fishing.
How I'd say a houseboat.
Okay,
A
I
houseboat.
guess. I guess. I can't be out on the sea fucking Demi.
A sea-doo,
Okay, I don't know what
a
a sea
jet
doo is.
ski, a
Oh,
jet ski.
oh, oh, I will not have sex on a jet ski at all. I would be so scared if I accidentally just hit the throttle. Oh, we're both dead. I'm sorry. I don't.
Ooh, we hit
I
a
could.
dolphin.
They're rapists anyway, so fuck them. I do like dolphins though. They're cute. Um, you ready for Would You Rather?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, would you rather watch a girl on girl video or watch a guy on guy video?
Give me something else. We know this
Right, yeah, we know that
answer.
answer. I have to ask somebody straight for that one.
Yeah. No, you have to ask someone bisexual for that
know that.
or pansexual.
Now, okay, I'm not going to answer that one. But would you
Would it be funny
rather?
if I said girl on girl though?
I would be intrigued. I'd be like, okay, let's talk about that. Let's dive into it. So, would you rather only be able to have sex in cars or only be able to have sex in the shower?
Sex in the shower.
Ooh.
I like shower sex. Shower sex is very hot.
See, I hate shower sex. I
It can be a little distracting. It can be a little distracting, I think, but number one, you don't really have to clean out. It's
that's true. I don't I don't like I've had car sex before. I've had shower sex before, and I'm just thinking which one do I hate less?
See, I used to
I'll
have a lot of car sex when I was 16, 17, 18.
hmm
'Cause I lived in like a kind of a small town. We
hmm
had to like go out to like the orange groves and like go out to like the nowhere places and go like fuck in the dark alley, you know?
Yeah, in the little spots.
Mhm.
I think I would have to go with shower sex because if it's
The
not
big
a
shower. Big
if
shower.
yes, big shower. If it's not like a semi, I don't want to know like I can do that. Truck bed, yes, I can do that. But a car, no, I don't. Yeah, I don't. Car sex just I
We're too old for car
younger.
sex.
Exactly. If I
We're
was
too
younger,
old for car
yeah, I would
sex.
do it, but I've experienced the life of having my own apartment. Like I just I don't want to go back to like public play. I'm okay with like I'm still not no like those people who like to have sex in the gym. I can't do that.
I
I'm
can't
sorry.
do
I'm here to
that.
work out. I don't want to randomly walk into the locker room and you're fucking somebody. I'm disturbed at this point. Go
Yeah.
home. Um so yeah. But there's showers at the gym. So would you do a shower sex at the gym or
No, it's not like public. I don't like public at all.
good
It's
point?
not. I mean, if we were like on a, it's not really public, but if it's like a secluded beach somewhere, that's fine. But like, I just don't like other people in the vicinity.
See, if it was a secluded beach, I wouldn't even bother even going in the shower. But at the same time, I would not have beach sex. I would not go in the water to have sex because sand. I would not be on the beach itself because sand, unless I have like one of those like I forgot the name of the chairs that lay back. But if I have one of those, probably so. We could have sex on the chair. But on the actual sand, sand is glass. I just have to remind people that. Like
Exactly. It's glass. You don't want it in certain places.
so I that's my main thought whenever anybody mentions beach sex. I'm just like, no, I don't want glass in my ass. I'm good on that. I oh, that old video about I think it was a man in the jar.
Oh no! No.
Trigger childhood
Oh man, that was worse than fucking Two Girls One Cup. Oh my fucking god, that one was gnarly. It was a GIF at one point too. It was just
oh
like
my God.
just repeatedly, the guy sitting on it, cracking open. Oh my god,
My,
blood just pouring.
my only thing is how the hell did all of those things go viral? That's the only thing I don't get. Like two girls, one cup, everyone knows about it. The one guy, one jar, everybody knows about it.
I think it
Like,
was word of mouth back then. Because it was always like your weird friend in high school that was like, "Hey, you ever seen this video?" And then they somehow knew what back alley site to get it on, and then they showed you. It was always like
true,
that.
true.
There was no social media back then.
That's very factual. Oh my. That means there was some people in some very dark places of the internet. Because
Yeah.
I know they weren't talking about that on Neopets, and that's what I was on when I was at this age, and I was
Not
enjoying.
Neopets.
Yes, Neopets, bitch. Like,
Digimon and Neopets, we were probably friends.
we were probably friends for real. Oh God, like that was my life. I was that innocent kid who actually researched sex at a young age. So
Yeah. I was
that was me.
downloading I was downloading JPEGs of Jessica Alba and her tits
Yes.
that were definitely photoshopped.
She was my screensaver at one point.
I had a life-size cardboard cutout of Angelina Jolie as Lara Croft in my room for like years.
You're definitely gay.
See, I thought I was straight. Or at least
But I support.
bisexual. No,
I
I was
support
gay.
Laura Craft. It was like so beautiful and like
Mhm.
oh the good days. Like I don't get it. Like yeah, she was so very fine on the cover of the game. However, playing the game, she was even sexier. It is all bad pixelation, so I don't know how, but
No, I love the
she
games. They were
it was
fun.
like her figure was just yeah, we were friends. Definitely friends. So, would you like a sex question?
Let's do it.
Have you ever watched another couple have sex? If not,
Yes.
would you want to? Oh, so you have.
Yeah, of course I have.
How was that experience for you?
I felt a little left out,
Mm,
but I was the guest, if you will. So I was like, yeah,
mm.
I left after that. I was like, I had my time. They had their time. I'm like, all right, sayonara.
Wait, so they didn't include you throughout the entire process?
It was me and one, and then the other and him. So I didn't go the third person.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
hmm. I've watched couples have sex, but most of the time that was during a threesome moment too. But I was purposely invited to the threesome because I'm a whole unicorn out here. So I was invited, and they were pleasing me. But I've also had like horrible threesome experiences where I didn't know that these two people were like a couple and they were just enjoying each other. And I'm just like, why the fuck did y'all even like,
That's exactly how I felt. I was like, I feel like I'm not a huge voyeur anyways. I'm like, I don't
mhm.
really like that a whole lot in these days, but I was kind of like, I feel like I'm like witnessing a private moment here. So I'm like, I'm gonna
Exactly. I'm
get
okay
myself
with
out of here.
leaving. Like, enjoy each other, I guess.
Yeah.
Did you like why am I here? Was
Yeah.
I here to spark conversation for y'all to fuck? And I need to be paid.
Oh, well, see, they didn't have sex at that time. They had sex with me.
Oh,
That was fun.
I support.
That was fun. And yeah, we actually had shower sex too, actually. That was
Oh,
a
to
good
clean
time.
off.
That was a good time.
Okay. Well, yeah, I need to like I don't know. It's hard to find couples these days or couples who actually have like the
Not here in LA. Everyone's a fucking couple.
oh the yeah. I mean conservative ass
That's the
choice.
problem I'm facing is the guys I'm interested in have boyfriends. It's like, God, fuck. Are you kidding?
I told myself if I'm still single by like age 35, I'm just gonna join somebody's relationship and just call it a day and just be happy.
Jump into a
Like,
throuple.
yeah, like I find you attractive. I find you attractive. We can have sex every now and again, and let's be great. Like,
Let's be great.
that's it.
Well, I'm almost 35, so I'm I'm veering towards them myself. Becoming a couple with someone.
Well, just go ahead and pull up the app. So, how's your relationship? What are y'all's
How's
relationship
that
goals?
going?
Are you interested in having a third? What will that look like for us? Did you already include yourself in our relationship? Yes, what would that look like for us? That's all I'm trying to figure out. Like, come on. We're having this now.
Exactly. Imagine.
Right. Okay, so that's the episode, everybody. So, Demi, do you have any last words that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, just follow me on social media. I'm at Dimitri Wild on everything: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. You can follow my podcast. The podcast is Hook Up Horror Stories with Demi Wild. You can find that on every podcast platform, and you can read my blogs, The Deviant's Guide to Sex and Deviant's The Deviant Diaries. I forgot what the other one was. The Deviant
So many
Diaries
things.
on my website at dimitriwild.com.
Awesomeness. Well, Demi, thank you so much for blessing me with your presence and your great conversation.
Thank you
To
for
the
having me.
Oh, of course, to the audience out there, thank you all so much for listening to the Holy podcast, where we step out and speak on sexuality. Just in case no one else told you this today, you are beautiful, you are worthy of happiness and joy, you are enough and then some. You may not live up to the expectations of others, but that is okay. You are only required to walk in your own shoes. May each day you live lead you towards abundance. With that said, love you all and see you next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Holiloquy podcast, where we step out and speak on sexuality. You can subscribe to the podcast through your favorite podcasting app and find us on the web at www.holiloquy.com. That's www.heauxliloquy.com. Share the podcast with your friends and join the conversation.